Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Eric Belcher from the Florida Memorial University Women's Program. Welcome, Coach.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here and have a good chat with you.
Yeah, excited to have you too. I always love getting fellow Florida schools on here. And you're fairly new to Florida here, having just joined the Florida Memorial Program. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So let's start off kind of with your recruiting, because like you say, you just kind of got the job here a couple months ago and need to probably do a whole lot of recruiting
Yeah,
right now here in the spring. So I know you're coming from another program, and you've got a nice long coaching history. But so let's talk about it more from, in your ideal scenario rather than the one you're walking into right now.
yeah,
But when do you start recruiting players? When do you start hearing from players in terms of what you're in high school? Because I know it's sometimes different on the women's side than the guys' side.
yeah. I mean, it's getting a little crazy now because of COVID. I think kids are starting to reach out extremely early. I've had some 25s and 26, and I'm like, goodness gracious, like you need to just go have fun with your life. Don't worry about college yet. It's a bit early. But normally around the junior year, we start hearing from kids, and then we start kind of compiling a little database of who we like and who can do what we need them to do and where we need to go to kind of find kids. For me personally, I'm huge on growth, and I think even at the start of your junior year, you still have a lot of growth to do. And I think as a coach, sometimes it could be a little unfair to basic kids, 4 years on their junior year when they still have a whole year to physically grow, mentally grow. So although we do have some that reach out, I like to kind of get to them, the beginning of their senior year when they're have had another year to actually grow physically and mentally.
Oh, that makes sense. So, I know you're coming from West Virginia, so where you used to recruit might be different from where you go
Yeah.
now. But are there specific tournaments or events that are kind of on your must-see list or places you like to go?
Yeah. So back in West Virginia where we were recruiting, the area is really remote, and there's not many big soccer tournaments that happen in there other than the state cup and the regionals. And now they got a few that are jumping off around the Charleston area, but normally we have to go outside the state. So the big one tends to be like Jefferson Cup. That's pretty close to us, but here down in Florida, there's so much soccer that goes on year round that it's kind of made it, plentiful for me to go to places. 2 weeks after I got hired, I was in Tampa at a tournament, which, if I was in West Virginia, that's a longer drive. I'm in another state.
Yeah.
So with Florida being so open in terms of great weather and then the amount of soccer that comes here, we kind of have an array of places to go, especially with ECNL coming down here as well, and the GA and everything like that. But me personally, I'm huge on junior college kids. And the Nationals is held down in this area for the women's as well. So that makes things a little bit easier. Obviously a little bit late to the recruiting trail with this program. So, we're looking in a different area. We're flipping over every stone we can, and our whole month of June will be filled with just being at places, whether that's here in Florida or up in Georgia, or maybe in South Carolina. We've got a lot of stones to flip to get to where we need to be.
Are you hitting 22s heavy right now as well still, or are you looking at 23s?
Yes. So actually, I'm only doing 22s right now.
Okay.
I've had maybe about 15 or 20 23s reach out, and I simply just have to let them know, like, hey, I'm new. I'm still trying to, get our base built with our 22s going into the fall. So once we kind of get that settled, we feel comfortable, then we'll move on to the 23s. Hopefully, I want to start hitting them around July. That way, I've got our fall ready to go, and we're not still trying to put together some of the pieces to this puzzle, per se.
Yeah.
But we do have some 23s that we have reached out to that we want to make sure that we get on the radar. But 22s is where we're at right now, considering what we've picked up with this program. In the fall, I guess they had about 22, 23 players. And between the fall and when I got here, I would say about 5 or 6 left. And then we graduate 1 or 2. So, we got a lot of holes to fill. That's got to be done by the 22s.
You mentioned junior college players. So is that, are you looking more heavily JUCO this year just because you mentioned the gaps you got to fill and try to even things out, or is that something you like to do all the time?
Yeah, that's kind of my base of my recruiting. With a junior college player, you get a veteran student, and for me, I'm huge on the little things. And I've noticed over the years that if a kid struggles in school, they struggle on the field. And getting a junior college kid, right away that their schooling is at the right point, right? Because obviously you got to do a lot of things to become eligible. And you can't be, struggling in school and be eligible as a JUCO to a 4-year school. So we kind of get a mature student, which makes the soccer a lot easier. In terms of our team right now, I've signed 10 players already heading into the fall since I've got here.
Wow.
And I would say 3 or 4-year transfers. And then we have, I want to say maybe four or five that are junior college transfers. And then a couple of freshmen.
Okay.
We're not opposed to freshmen. It's just, kids don't realize the level of the college game. Not many go to college games, not many watch it on TV. And essentially it's a big jump. It can be a big jump. So we try to find the kids that are ready for that. And then even with our freshmen that are coming in, my philosophy is after maybe probably 3 or 4 games, then they'll be ready to go. But until then, we got to find someone to fill that void. So.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And hopefully, that plugging those holes is going to work for you. So you got Florida Memorial is the first HBCU we've talked to. And I want, I want to help people understand the HBCU world, right? Because I think a lot of folks out there don't know, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you go on your website right now and look at the team picture from last season, from the fall, it looks like any other college soccer roster you'd see across the country.
Yeah.
So, just talk to me a little bit about being an HBCU and how that affects your recruiting, about how that affects the team, and what students might be, maybe are misconceptions about that.
Yeah. This is actually the first HBCU that I've worked at in my years of coaching soccer, and most people know in America, soccer is not really an African-American sport. On the women's side, I would say men, we play that a lot, but on the women's side, the number is very, very small of African-American women that play soccer. And with that small number comes a great amount of schools that are going after that small number. So for us here, I think, I don't know if you've ever been to Miami Gardens or Miami in general, but it's a heavily Spanish-speaking populated area. So by default, most of the high schools in the area, most of the locals are Spanish-speaking folks, which the team has kind of evolved to. But in terms of the HBCU aspect, that is a route that we are trying to explore. And in terms of the school, I think what people don't realize about an HBCU, although it is a minority African-American based community, there is opportunity for everyone. The thing that I've learned the most since I've been here is how much fun an HBCU is in terms of just being around the environment. I think my first 3 weeks there was a basketball game. The band rolled into the basketball game and had that place jumping. I was like, what is going on here? Never experienced that. Normally you'll get the drum line or something, but we had the whole band in there. And all our events are extremely fun, and just the people to be around are fun, and it's just an opportunity. Our sport, folks tend to forget that we play it, and we're trying to just, build an opportunity for those that kind of look like me and everyone else to enjoy our culture. Coolest things we have around here also, we get food trucks that are on campus every now and then, which are free to students based on our health and wellness events, right? So the stuff you get at other schools, you do get here. It's just exuberated a lot due to the fact that we love to have fun. I would say probably a month ago we had a concert on campus. Rick Ross, I'm not sure if you
yeah.
him.
I'm that old.
Yeah. Yeah, he showed up on campus, and I'm like, what is going on here? Like this is legit, right? So it's a lot of fun things that the campus loves to do for the students, which I encourage folks to get involved with at HBCU. It's a different animal, different environment, but a very fun place to be. In terms of our team, obviously, the question I tend to ask a lot of my players that I've recruited is have you ever had an African American coach? And the answer is always no. And even teacher wise in school, it may be like, oh, well, I had like one. I never had 2 or 3 teachers. So it is something that I think folks are looking forward to, and that hopefully we can get our community more involved in. But I also think that for our situation in terms of female soccer, not a lot of us play, and those of us that do play, they have a lot of offers from other universities that are very hard for us to compete with at the moment. Now, in a couple of years, that's going to change. But at the moment, if you ask one of us if you'd like to go to a 4-year NCAA school that made the tournament, on a 90% scholarship, they're going to take that.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. I think that's just part of the growth in our community, which I'm excited to see. But I would love to see you come play for us here down in South Florida.
No, that's great. So, you and I, before we jumped on, we're talking a little bit about the financial aid aspect of things. You guys are an NAIA school, so you do you do have some athletic money. But one of the questions folks always have are, okay, what's it going to cost, right? How much? So, can you just give me a broad outlook on the overall financial aid picture at FMU, both from an athletic money and academic money, grant money, that kind of thing, and what would you say most players are going to be? What kind of situation are they going to be walking into?
Yeah, I mean that's the second question I ask recruits when I recruit them, and I guess not question, but kind of second thing we bring up. The first one is always, what's your major? If we don't have your major, there's no point in you coming to our school or us continuing the conversation, right? Like, not trying to butt heads or anything like that. But if we don't have your major, there's no point in talking. But then the next one is always financially. What can you afford, and what do we look like in terms of the financial aspect? So the thing about us is we are the cheapest school in South Florida. I think it is one of the cheapest in the state. We run about $24,000 a year. That's before any aid is added. And the cool thing about us, which at most schools they don't really tell you about, is that number includes your dorm room, your meal plan, any of those random fees that they kind of hit you with that afterwards that you don't really know about. Books are included, and health insurance, and then your tuition. So we package a great package around $24,000. And I think that's pretty decent compared to where I've been at. And in terms of an individual person, depending on where you're from, if you're an American, obviously you can add your FAFSA money to that if you wanted to, and any other grants you may get from the government. And then in-state kids, we have 2 different types of in-state scholarships that you can get for just being in-state. So that kind of helps a kid as well. A Florida kid tends to pay, I want to say, anywhere between, from what I've learned the past 3 months, maybe $3K to maybe $6K, depending on where you live, what you want to do, and if you qualify for everything, which is good for us.
That's a great deal.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we struggle with is the Florida kids don't know we're here. So I will give credit to our admissions team. They're doing a great job now in expanding who we are, and getting our brand out there. And as well as athletics, that's something that is put on my plate to do. I'm excited to keep that journey going. But financially, we have a great situation for Florida kids, if you check all the boxes. Overall, we're at one price point. I had a kid yesterday ask me, like, what's your cost for international students? And I said, hey, it's the same as, an American.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, shoot, well, that's actually better news, which is why you see our team from last year is very international heavy, because the price point is the same. So,
yeah.
But yeah, overall, pretty, easy going financial situation if you check all the boxes, and then if you don't, me personally, I don't like to see families go through that struggle. So I try to balance it as much as I can, whether that be with academics or any outside scholarships. But, we like to see our kids comfortably able to afford at least half. And then we try to supplement that number if we can.
Okay. Well, one thing you just mentioned is that, your admissions team, everybody's trying to kind of get the name out there because people don't know you're around, even here in Florida, right?
Right.
So, I know you've only been there 3 months, but you mentioned a few of the awesome things that you've seen so far in your time. But I can go to the website, click around, and learn a little bit. But besides what you mentioned before, what are some of the awesome things about Florida Memorial that you would want people to know?
The biggest thing is the cafeteria. That's one of the things when you get college recruited, people don't tell you about. As an athlete, your nutrition, I guess you could say, your fuel is what they call it, is the most important thing to you. And our cafeteria here is extremely, extremely high compared to everyone else. I tell my recruits at the schools I've been at, I probably eat at the cafeteria once. Here, I could eat there every day and not have any issues. A lot of our coaches go eat lunch over there, which tells you the food is good, because normally, we have the option to go off campus. We go to the cafeteria. So that's huge for us here at Florida Memorial. Another thing, the people, everyone is extremely nice, and they want to see you, grow and graduate. That's two big things here. And I think, as cliche as it sounds, you won't find a place where everyone is on that same page like they are here. And then just the experience. Again, an HBCU is something, I hope everyone gets to experience at least once. Even if you don't choose to come to us, go to a football game, go to a soccer game, go to a basketball game that is at a HBCU. Deion Sanders is a huge, person who is kind of pushing the HBCU is not that, little brother. We're not the little brother anymore. So I encourage folks to get in touch, come for a visit. You'll be very shocked at what we do have. Hell, you come on campus and the first thing you see is palm trees on the runway. So, there's a lot we got going on. And again, if it's something that interests, a recruit, I always tell them, let's get you on campus. We had one girl that came one day, and it happened to be a baseball game, and like 4 food trucks that day. A great day to be on campus, right? So yeah, those are kind of things I kind of roll with around here, and I think we have a lot more to offer. It's just a matter of getting here to see it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Help me understand, whether that it's been at your previous institutions or more specifically here now. I know it's kind of tough because you haven't had a season yet, but how do you see students balancing academics and athletics, and does Florida Memorial have some good support systems to help students succeed both in the classroom as well as the field?
Yeah, I mean, I'm huge on it. It's part of our culture, part of our structure. I told the kids, obviously I came in a little bit late. So when it came to just, them, picking classes for the spring, I wasn't involved in that process, as well as just getting prepared for us. So for me, I try to make it so a student, their day is pretty much planned in terms of, you got class, then you got practice, and you don't have to worry about much. So something that our culture is going to be brought into. At my previous school, we had a good system set up where the kids were able to take classes all day, And then when they got done classes at about 4, we started training at about 5, and it worked out perfectly. I'm huge on time management. The less time you spend, on the field messing about, the more time you can spend being a good student, which translates into a good player, right? If you don't have to worry about your grades, you're going to be better on the soccer field. So here at Florida Memorial, going into the fall, we'll kind of get our culture set academically back to where I want it to be. But they do have a great system here called the CARS Center. Ton of academic support with our advisors over there who put you on the right path. We have a couple kids that were struggling a bit. And it turns out, after stopping through there, one girl's raised her GPA, I think, almost a whole number.
Yeah.
Just by stopping through there and talking some things out with the folks in there. And for me, I make that a point of stoppage for us on our campus tours. And I always say, hey, you got to ask someone in here one question. You know what I mean? And they love it because now they get to interact more with the students and get them on the right path from the start. So for me, it's pretty much let's get you set up to where you can't fail academically, right? So soccer is not an excuse because we're going to make soccer not interfere with that. But yeah, good people over there that'll take you directly to where you need to be in life. And that center is located, I would say, probably 100 yards away from the athletic facilities. So we got a great little situation happening there.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk more about the soccer side of things a little bit. You mentioned you got 10 coming in, you're maybe 15-ish returning. So do you have an ideal roster size that you're trying to hit every year?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned in college you need to have about 30 in our game. And I tell recruits that, and they look at you like, oh my God, that's a lot of people. And it's like, yeah, but it's college. You don't understand how physically demanding college soccer is until you get involved in it, right? Like, and then you think out of those 30, you probably have 4 that are goalies, and then there's always the kid that gets homesick, that goes home early. There's always a kid that can't afford it, and there's always a kid that gets that one bad injury that, you hope no one gets, but it tends to happen. And then just the injuries throughout the season. College soccer doesn't do the athlete any justice by playing, 2 games within 72 hours in the heat. So a large number of players do help rotate the squad a lot. At my previous school in the fall, we ran into an issue where we had low numbers. We had 16 players on that squad. At one point we had 12 available, and one was a backup goalie. I will say for 2 games, we started our backup goalie at forward. God bless that girl. She almost scored 2 goals. She banged one off the post. I'm like, oh my gosh, But we did all that en route to winning the championship, going 13-0 in the conference. Most people don't really grab the fact that we showed up to some games with 13 people. You know what I mean? And it's a testament to them to win, 2 trophies with 16 players. We had an ACL, we had a broken hand, and then we had a sprained knee. So at one point we had 3 major injuries, which is part of the college game. So 30 is a good number for me. I say if you get 30, you tend to fall around 20, 22, 23. I prefer not to be sitting at 16 again going into this season, knowing that we play in such a tough conference, and it is Florida where it's 300 degrees every day. So we're shooting for 30. We're shooting for 30.
Okay. What about staff? Obviously you're new, you're the new head coach, but do you have any other soccer staff at this point, or plan on having staff in the fall?
Yeah, so we're working with our administration team on that. We're still trying to determine whether we want that to be a GA position or stipend position, and how we want to work with that. For me, I've done it by myself at a couple different schools. It's not fun. That's how I lost all my hair. And we want to make sure that we do, can get someone in to help us in those everyday moments. I preached to my boss, the first school that I actually had a a full-time assistant at. Obviously, she was a GA. We win the championship. I was able to be a better coach because I had more hands to help with a lot of the everyday, day-to-day stuff. And for me, I'm very organized in terms of my training, and having another hand to help that organization go a little better is something that we are gonna be looking at over the next few weeks as school winds down, and we start looking at our funds a little bit more, and our programs that we can work out with the masters. So
Okay, that makes sense. So how would you describe, your style of coaching? How do you want your team to play as you go into this first full season?
Yeah. So for me, I tell folks I love to play how our players can play. I've learned my lesson in my years. You can't put a round object in a square hole. If you try to force that in, it's more detrimental than it is helpful. So our team will be based around a lot of philosophies in terms of possession and just believing in each other in general. But I'm very offensive heavy. I was an attacker in college, scored a lot of goals, and when I got to the pro ranks and did trials in that era, they moved me to defense, which was okay. But I do love to see goals go in. So we are very an attack minded program, which is based on possession. I tell folks again, I always refer to my previous school because that's kind of the last time we got to play. Our whole team, I think we had one player that was a defender that played defense. Everybody else was an attacker. We took the left winger from the year before. We moved her to left back. She made defensive player of the year. We took the right winger. We made her center back. She made first team all conference. So we do love attacking. We'll try to outscore you, kind of like Real Madrid did the other day, where they just put on a bunch of attacking players. And having a good soccer IQ is another main thing that I love to focus on. And I think, we're heading in that direction with the team we kind of have coming in and the returners we have. So a lot of possession and a lot of scoring. And then if you don't score, it's okay. Just keep the ball.
All right. Well, we've been chatting for a while. I don't want to keep you. You've been very generous with your time. So I'll leave you with one last question, which is, what didn't we cover? What else do you want to say about either the team, the school, your philosophies, or anything else?
Yeah, no, I think we hit the nail for everything. I think, it's a good conversation. You got some good questions. And I think, we cover the basis of what, we are as soccer coaches. I guess one thing we love to do here is we always have a lot of superstitions. One is we have a team handshake after every game. If we lose, we change it. After every practice, if we lose, we change it. And one of the main things for me is whenever we play, you got to remember lucky number 7 in Chelsea. Those are two things that if you can remember with me, it'll get your team the ball first in the scrimmages. It'll get your team the ball first in the drills, and we'll enjoy our practice from there.
Well, I'm a Spurs man, so I won't hold it against you, but that's all right.
Big game for you this weekend.
Little bit. Yeah. Well,
that's okay. You might make it to Europe.
We're hoping. Well, Coach, hey, I appreciate the time. Wish you the best of luck. I'm sure my car will be in Miami at some point this next year, and we'll try to swing by it and see the facilities and say hi.
Yeah, cool. Appreciate it. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you.
Yep.